I came home 2 days early, thinking I'd surprise her. Instead, I surprised myself. From the hallway, I heard my wife laughing on the phone. Her voice, light, careless, said, "If he just vanished before my birthday, that would be the best gift ever." She didn't know I was standing 10 feet away, listening. And in that moment, something inside me stopped. I didn't shout, I didn't walk in, I just looked at our wedding photo on the wall, the two of us in Cabo, smiling like fools, and realized she'd already left me long before I ever walked out that door. So I made a decision. If disappearing is the gift she wants, I'll make sure it's one she never forgets. But the thing about gifts, you can't return them once they're opened. What would you do if you heard your partner wish you'd disappear? Keep watching. I walked into the living room like nothing was wrong. She closed a laptop tab and poured wine, the kind of smooth, practiced pour that says we're fine when we're not. I set my bag down gently, the way you set down a box marked fragile, and said what any husband would say after a long flight. My plane got in early. She smiled, but not with her eyes. You learn to spot that around year 5. Polite smiles, choreographed lines. I've fixed leaky sinks at midnight, shoveled snow at 5 a.m., and kept the lights on through recessions and layoffs. None of that trains you for a sentence like, "I wish he'd vanish." I didn't ask about the call, didn't ask who was laughing on the other end. I just sat, breathing through the noise in my chest, and put my wedding band flat against the table to feel its weight. In my head, I promised myself, don't argue, don't beggingly explain, not tonight. There's a kind of silence that fills a house after midnight. It has edges. I stood in the kitchen, clock blinking 11:42, listening to the hum of the fridge and the tick of the thermostat. I've built my life on lists. Mortgages, car notes, retirement contributions, those emails you send before sunrise so your team thinks you sleep less than you actually do. I took out my small notebook and wrote one line across the top. 7 days. The pen felt heavier than it should. I wasn't angry. Anger burns fast and stupid. This was different, like turning a valve and feeling the pressure drop. If you're a man who holds a family together, you know this move. You stop patching holes and you close the main. I stared at the word 7, pressed the tip of the pen into the paper until it dotted through, and pictured her talking into speakerphone, casual as a weather report. I closed the notebook and felt the room change. The word provider sounds noble when you say it at a wedding. It feels smaller on a Tuesday night when you're squinting at a utility bill and Googling coupons for HVAC filters. I grew up watching my father pay things on time, even if the timing hurt. You learn the trick. Don't panic. Plan. I planned roofs, budgets, vacations we could afford without pretending. She used to call it steady. Lately, she called it boring, like I'd chosen dull over alive. But predictable is what keeps a family from becoming a windshield story. Somewhere along the way, my steadiness turned into background noise she could talk over. I moved the pile of color-coded folders, insurance, titles, passwords, farther from her wine glass. Little habit, small defense. Being a provider means you notice the glass before it tips. I looked at the folders, at the ring still warm from my hand, and understood. I'd been providing for a version of us that didn't live here anymore. Morning light came soft across the counters. She floated in wearing a robe that said weekend, even though it was Wednesday. She talked paint swatches of gold, warm gold, not brassy lighting, flowers that make photos look expensive. I nodded like a wedding planner with a spreadsheet in his head. "I'll send the deposit," I said, because for years, that's who I've been. A yes that arrives on time. She smiled, and I watched her check her reflection in the microwave door like a habit she forgot she had. People our age know this moment. You realize your partner is practicing a life that may not include you. I took a sip of coffee that had gone a little bitter, and the taste told me the truth. I was done seeking approval for quietly doing the right thing. I rinsed the cup, set it upside down, and decided that by the time this party rolled around, the guest of honor would get exactly what she asked for. At the office, my window overlooks a river of asphalt where heat makes everything shimmer. Life rolls forward whether you wave it down or not. I've watched deals fall apart, and somehow the elevator still dings at noon. That view taught me endings aren't explosions, they're lane changes. I stood there longer than I should have, imagining her birthday. The photos, the toasts, the little circle of friends who loved the show. I could have marched home and staged my own scene, broken plates, and vowed vengeance. Men my age have seen what that buys: court dates and a reputation you can't mop up. So I did the opposite. I opened my calendar, clicked every vendor we'd hired, and stared at the due dates lined up like dominoes. All those neat little boxes. I thought about every time I'd kept a promise alone, in the dark while she slept. Then I made a better promise. To myself. Not a lane change. An exit. I started dialing. Florist, caterer, band, decorator. Yes, this is Mr. Collins, confirmed. Paid in full. Polite, crisp, professional. The kind of tone you use when your voice is the only adult in the room. On paper, it looked like devotion. One more husband over-preparing for his wife's big night. But men who manage risk know the other side. Paper trails and arguments. Receipts turn rumors into evidence. Every paid email was a boundary painted bright yellow. If she wanted freedom, I'd remove every excuse for saying I trapped her. I wasn't building a party. I was closing a file. When the last confirmation hit my inbox, I leaned back and saw the picture clearly. There's mercy in clarity. I had just bought myself the cleanest exit a man can make. No yelling, no slamming doors, just facts lined up like soldiers. And once facts stand in formation, you don't have to raise your voice. You simply point. That's when the plan clicked. Night again, blue screen on my face, files opening like little vaults. I move policies out of joint folders into private ones, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. If you've ever cleaned a garage at 11 p.m., you know the feeling. Keep, toss, box, label. That's how a life becomes manageable again, one click at a time. The house was quiet in that suspicious way nice houses get, like everything is holding its breath. I wasn't hiding anything. I was separating combustible from non-combustible. I backed up drives, changed 2 passwords I should have changed months ago, and stared at the progress bar, walking slowly to the right. Men my age joke about reading the manual. Tonight, I was writing one. When the backup finished, the room felt different, like furniture had shifted an inch, and now the path was clear. I closed the laptop, and for the first time in months, my heartbeat matched the clock. Order had returned. Resolve followed. Family is who you text without rehearsing. I thumbed a message to my brother in Austin. Need a couch for a bit. Cooling off. He replied the way brothers do. Always. No questions. No speeches, just a green light. I pictured his porch light, that dent in his old leather sofa, the smell of coffee that somehow tastes better out of his chipped mug. If you've ever driven to a sibling's place after a hard day, you know the medicine. I told him I'd bring my own towels and silence. He sent a thumb up and a bad dad joke. I caught myself smiling. Then I opened a drawer and pulled out the spare keys. House, gate, garage. I set them in a line on the table like chess pieces I was about to give away. My world had been an exhibit of hours. Tonight, it became a series of clean handoffs. Michael's always steadied me. I stared at those keys and knew who needed them next. Every man should have one friend who understands without drama. For me, that's Derek. The guy who shows up with a socket set and a thermos. I texted, tomorrow, 6 p.m., she'll be at the ballroom. Locksmith for every door, movers for her things. Place them under the porch light. Neat, dry, labeled. He wrote back a single word. Done. When he arrived that afternoon, I placed the keys in his palm and slid over an envelope. Contacts, receipts, cash for the crew. We didn't hug. We looked each other in the eye like men do when something important just got decided. He asked one question. You sure? I nodded once. That was the ceremony. He left without advice because he knows advice is what people give when they're uncomfortable. Respect is different. Respect executes. As his truck turned the corner, I felt the plan lift off the runway. Wheels up, no turbulence. I checked my watch and exhaled. The hardest part would be sleeping. Back in the bedroom, the room felt colder than the thermostat said. She was already asleep, breathing slow, a podcast whispering from her phone. I stood there and listened the way you do before you leave a house for a long trip, taking inventory with your eyes. I could have shaken her awake and asked, why? But men my age know the answer often doesn't fix the damage. I reached for the nightstand and set my phone face down, screen black. In that quiet, I made a promise I didn't say out loud. I will not perform my pain. I will not audition for sympathy. I will give you the gift you asked for, exactly as ordered. No bows, no balloons, just absence. Tomorrow, I start the clock. 7 days to turn a wish into a reality you can't return. I slid under the covers, eyes open to the ceiling, and matched my breathing to hers until sleep finally arrived. When it did, resolve slept beside me. I started with the simple things: emails, contracts, logins. You don't realize how much of a marriage lives in passwords until you change a few. I opened our shared folders and watched little icons jump from joint to private, like moving boxes from a garage to a storage unit with better locks. I wasn't hiding money or secrets. I was organizing my life so it didn't fall on the floor when the door opened. If you've ever spent a Sunday clearing out a shed, you know the feeling. Keep, toss, label. The hum of the fridge, the glow of the screen. Ordinary sounds that make hard choices feel routine. I deleted an old vacation plan we never took and felt the sting you feel when you donate a jacket that still fits. Then I set two-factor on the rest and wrote the new codes by hand. A house goes quiet when you clean it right. So does a man. That was the point. Morning made everything look normal again. She asked about a playlist, live sax or DJ. I said, well, whatever feels right, and meant it in a way she didn't hear. People think agreement equals trust. Sometimes it's surrender. I buttered toast the way I always do, a thin edge to the corners, because old habits outlive good intentions. She swiped through photos of centerpieces like a casting director. I watched the way her face lit up for attention that wasn't mine. You hit a certain age and you stop translating hints. You accept subtitles. I washed my plate, wiped the counter, and let her talk about a night designed for cameras. Inside, I flipped a switch. There's a freedom in not auditioning for a role you've already lost. Sax might be classy, I offered, because closure can wear a suit. She nodded, satisfied. I grabbed my keys and told her I'd handle the deposits. What I handled was something bigger, my exit. I wrote one subject line and sat with it. Final draft, signed before Friday. A clean email, no emojis, no fireworks. I read it like a contract to myself. Don't take cheap shots. Don't leave ragged edges. Men who've been through layoffs and funerals know the truth. Paperwork is mercy. It keeps today's pain from bleeding into tomorrow. I attached the agreement my attorney had shaped. Fair, brief, and precise. No surprise landmines, no lyrical paragraphs. I pictured courtrooms and decided I didn't want the echo. I wanted a receipt. Before hitting send, I called the lawyer and asked one question. Is this respectful? He said, it's clear. That was better than kind. I clicked send and let the whoosh stand in for all the speeches I wasn't going to make. The email landed. My hand stopped buzzing. Somewhere downstairs, a delivery a delivery truck rattled the street. Life went on. So did I. That's when I knew the plan had left the runway. I laid a suitcase on the bed and packed like a man who's learned to live out of a duffel. 2 shirts you can roll tight. 1 pair of jeans that does the job. The good shoes that don't complain after midnight. I added a leather folder with documents that actually matter. Titles, policies, a copy of the email I'd just sent. Travel light sounds poetic until you have to do it at 50. Then it's a boundary, not a slogan. I skipped the sentimental. No framed photos, no anniversary wine corks. Grief steals through souvenirs. I kept the door closed. I zipped the case and listened for the click that says enough. When you're the one who always carries the heavy things, it's strange to feel weight leave your hands. I set the suitcase by the door, just close enough to trip over. It reminded me the clock was running. If disappearing was the gift, I'd wrap it neat. No ribbon, only edges. On the map, Dallas to Austin is a straight shot line, a few hours and a couple of gas stations. On a bad day, it's a lifetime. I traced the route with my finger like a father showing a kid how to get home, and thought about all the times I'd chosen to stay put. We do that. We stay for soccer schedules, for aging dogs, for the mortgage rate that's too good to give up. Freedom rarely shows up on sale. I checked the traffic, checked the weather, and laughed at myself for checking like a man planning a camping trip instead of an exit. The funny part? It felt less like running away and more like returning to somewhere I'd left. I pictured my brother's porch light and the awkward couch that gives you a good backache and better sleep. I closed the map. The distance wasn't long. The decision was. And both, finally, were mine. I set the keys down. That mattered. She tried on heels in the hallway mirror, practicing a smile that photographs well under soft lighting. The mirror is honest about angles, not about intentions. I stood where she couldn't see me and recognized every move, the half turn, the hair tuck, the shoulder drop, habits she learned for rooms that clap. There was a time I was the room. Men my age know this drift. It starts with small outsourcing. Attention, then affection, then respect. You blink and you're the safe option, not the chosen one. She asked if the dress was too much for a ballroom. I told her it was beautiful because it was, and because truth doesn't always need to be a weapon. She smiled at the mirror, not at me. That's when I realized I didn't need her to look back. I needed to look ahead. If an audience is what she wants, I won't stand between her and applause. I'll stand aside. Cleaner, louder, gone. I keep a small note in my wallet for things I can't afford to forget. Gate codes, a locker number from a job site in '09. I slid a new one behind my license. 7 days. The paper felt like a promise and a timer. Old guys joke about reading glasses. What they don't tell you is how sharp your sight gets for what matters. I checked the day, 5 left. Time is a tool if you use it, a trap if you don't. I mapped the week, calls to make, accounts to separate, a locksmith who answers on the first ring. People will say I move too fast. They didn't hear the sentence that started this clock. I tucked the note away and felt my pulse settle into something steady. Men like me measure twice and cut once. I had measured for years. The cut was overdue. I closed my wallet and heard the soft snap. That sound ended the debate. Action next. Derek came by with that look men exchange when something serious is about to happen. I laid out the keys, house, gate, garage, like chess pieces changing sides. Tomorrow at 6, I said. She'll be at the ballroom, locksmith for every lock, movers for her things. Keep it neat, keep it dry. Text me when you're done. He didn't ask for reasons. He asked for instructions. That's friendship at our age. Competence over commentary. I slid over an envelope. Contacts, copies of receipts, cash for the crew. He thumbed through it once and nodded. Clear, he said. That word calmed something inside me I hadn't noticed clenching. We didn't shake hands long. We didn't talk about how it got here. We looked at the list, agreed on the order, and ended the meeting like men who respect clocks. As his truck door thumped shut, I felt a line draw between past and present. The keys weren't hers anymore. Soon the door wouldn't be either. Before I left, I stood under the porch light and let my eyes walk the house like a goodbye tour. The chair she hunted down on a Saturday sale. The curtains I hung wrong the first time and fixed the second. The pencil mark on the doorframe from a nephew's summer visit. A life is a museum of small mistakes you learn to love. I ran my hand along the rail, found a loose screw I'd meant to tighten, and left it loose. Not out of spite, out of honesty. Some fixes aren't mine anymore. The air smelled like rain, the kind you can hear before you feel. I locked the door twice out of habit and slid the spare under the mat for Derek. If you've ever walked away from a house in the dark, you know the way the steps echo. Each one said the same thing. You did what you could. I reached the car and didn't look back. I pulled onto the highway with the radio off and the windows cracked just enough to let the road in. Tires have a way of telling the truth. Steady when you're steady, loud when you're not. I passed exits I could take blindfolded and felt the hum in my hands loosen. Men my age count peace in miles, not minutes. A truck drifted into my lane and corrected without drama, the way experience does. I thought about how easy it would be to call, to invite one last argument so the leaving felt justified. But I didn't need a scene to prove I was right. I needed distance to remember I wasn't crazy. The skyline thinned, then disappeared in the rear view, and with it the version of me that kept smoothing the same wrinkle. Halfway to Austin, the sun broke through a low bank of clouds and lit the road like a runway. I took the hint. I pressed the gas. I didn't brake. Michael leaves the porch light on like he always does, a small act that says more than speeches. The door sticks the same way it did when we were kids. I lean in with a shoulder and step into the kind of kitchen that forgives you. Clean counters, a humming fridge, the smell of coffee holding steady. He points at the chipped ceramic mug I always reach for and doesn't say a word. That silence is a bandage. We sit at the table where bills get paid and arguments get solved by pancakes. He asks if I want to talk. I shake my head and tell him I'm just here to breathe. He nods and tops off my cup, then goes to bed, leaving the hallway light on like a runway. I set my suitcase by the couch and smooth the blanket once, the way I do before a hard day. Tonight, I'm not fixing anything. I'm resting before I do. The laptop opens with that cold blue glow, and I line up my targets. Ballroom, catering, band, florist, decorator. If you've ever had to call a credit card after a fraud alert, you know the tone. Calm, precise, not here for small talk. Good evening, this is Mr. Collins. I need to cancel our event. Please confirm in writing. I keep it polite. No long explanations, no drama for the notes field. Vendors are like judges. They respect clean requests and paid balances. I attach the receipts so there's no question about who funded what. And I ask for timelines like a man who's built projects under deadline. One tab at a time, one confirmation number at a time, I box up a party that no longer exists. It's not revenge, it's housekeeping. When the last email flies out, I sit back and feel a muscle unclench in my neck. That's the first door closed. Now I wait for the stamps. The inbox starts blinking like a slow heartbeat. Florist first. Refund approved. Then the decorator. The ballroom sends a formal PDF that reads like a verdict. Processed. Reversed. Complete. If you've ever received a test result that finally explains your pain, you know the relief isn't joy. It's clarity. I whisper a quick thank you to no one in particular and save each message in a clean folder with a simple name. Done. The sound the mail app makes, just a small ding, becomes a metronome. There's something holy about paperwork behaving. No argues, no delays, no "we'll get back to you," just adults doing a thing right. I forward the list to my attorney with a single line. Per plan. He replies, "Good work." Not warm, not cold, solid. I close the laptop halfway and watch the light fold over the keyboard. The party has officially stopped existing. Next up is my speechless goodbye to the stage where it would have played. I read through each email one more time, not to gloat, but to confirm. My father used to say, "Measure twice, cut once." And he was right about wood and marriages. Satisfied, I close the laptop and let the click be my gavel. I don't text her. I don't text anyone who's not building the exit with me. There's a temptation at our age to narrate your pain, to look for witnesses. But witnesses don't carry boxes. I take my mug to the sink, rinse it, and set it upside down to dry. A small ritual to mark an ending. In the living room, the couch waits like an old friend who won't ask dumb questions. I stretch out and feel the ache behind my ribs loosen, a knot finally letting go. The house settles. A truck passes outside. I stare at the ceiling and accept a simple truth. The story can move forward without my commentary. The cut comes next. I send Derek the last message he needs. Tomorrow, 6 sharp. The dots bubble, then his reply lands. On site early. Got it. Competence is a language, and he's fluent. I ask for one photo when the locks are changed. Not for spite, for records. He thumbs up and adds, "Weather clear." That's friendship at 40 or 50. You include the forecast. I put the phone face down and listen to the house breathe. Out the window, Austin is a soft hum. A porch light across the street goes dark. Another quiet routine. I picture Derek lining up the crew, labeling boxes, wiping down a railing because he knows I would. You get to a certain age and you realize how rare it is to have people who put your plans ahead of their opinions. My phone vibrates once more. Truck booked, ETA 5:30. I answer, "Appreciate you." One last loose end tied. The next loose end is her evening. I can see it without seeing it. She's under the dryer, texting Claire, laughing that breathy laugh that plays well in rooms with mirrors. I don't hate her for it. Vanity is a hobby some of us can afford longer than others. I remember the first time I waited while she tried on a dress. I sat outside the fitting room, offering honest yeses and nos. Somewhere along the way, my opinion turned optional. That's a quiet wound older men know how to carry. I take a sip of coffee, gone lukewarm, and imagine her scrolling through hair inspiration. Soft waves, clean part, elevated but effortless. She's planning a night that would have made a highlight reel. I'm planning an exit that will not. The difference is intention. I put the mug in the microwave, watch the timer count down, and understand the metaphor. When it dings, I'm ready. She's styling what's visible. I'm fixing what's not. My timer matters more. I turn off location sharing, remove her from a couple of joint apps, and mute threads that used to matter. It's not secrecy. It's safety, like flipping breakers before you work on a line. Men who've been shocked once don't need a sermon. We need a checklist. I scroll to an old calendar called Us and switch it to Archive. The phone feels lighter after that, the way a pocket does when you take the extra keys out. I don't block her. Blocking invites drama. I choose space. Choice is the difference between retreat and strategy. An alert pops up from the bank about routine maintenance, and I smile at the timing. Routine maintenance is exactly what I'm doing. I disable one last shared login and put the phone down. Somewhere across town, she's picking a lipstick that photographs well. Good. Let her shine where she wants to shine. I'll keep my shine in the dark where important things get repaired. There's a particular kind of coffee you drink when you've told the truth to yourself. No sugar, no cream, just the taste of what it is. My father used to say, a man should know what black coffee tastes like and why. Tonight, I understand the why. It cuts through the perfume of excuses. I sit with the mug, hands around the heat, and let the bitterness do its job. If you've ever been up late paying medical bills or figuring out how to cover tuition without the family fracturing, you've met this cup. It doesn't comfort, it clarifies. The news is simple. The party's canceled, the locks are scheduled, the papers are ready. I hold the mug to my lips until the steam fades and set it down empty. A small promise kept. The clock over the stove blinks the same numbers it always blinks. Nothing dramatic. That's the point. The big turn in a man's life often sounds like a quiet swallow. The photo from Cabo lives on my phone, second row, first folder, the one where the ocean wind had her hair doing its own dance, and we laughed without performing. I pull it up and let the image sit. Memory is tricky. It wants to edit. I resist the edit. We were happy there, and then time did what it does. Added bills, deadlines, disappointments stacked like patio chairs. Good couples build underweight. Some buckle. Some bend until the bend becomes a shape you don't recognize. I won't rewrite her into a villain to make this easier. When love thins out, you either nourish it or you run on fumes and blame the engine. We ran on fumes too long. I tap the screen off and see my reflection in the black glass. Older, steadier, not broken. That matters. I slide the phone into my pocket like a keepsake that doesn't need to be seen. Tomorrow is the birthday. The past has had its toast. I open the suitcase and check the inner pocket. Manila envelope. Signatures ready. Instructions clear. I'm not proud of the neatness, but I respect it. Men my age live or die by preparation. I place the envelope back where it belongs and sit on the edge of the couch, shoes still on, like I might need to move fast, even though I won't. Outside, a late train moans its way through Austin, and the sound feels exactly right, something heavy heading somewhere it's supposed to go. I look at the ceiling and say a quiet sentence I haven't said out loud. Make it clean, not painless. Clean. I turn off the lamp, let the room dim to the kind of dark that's easy to sleep in, and close my eyes. Tomorrow, she'll step into a lobby expecting music. She'll get a letter instead. I'm not a man who loves surprises, but I believe in consequences. The night holds still. Morning is the trigger. I wasn't there, but I can see it the way you see a storm you've already tracked on radar. She steps into the lobby expecting a tunnel of flowers, a welcome sign with her name in gold, a small gasp from friends who love a grand entrance. Instead, blank air, no arch, no banner, just a neutral carpet and the steady buzz of lights that don't care who you are. Big nights can shrink fast under fluorescent truth. She pauses, adjusts a strap, checks her phone for the "we're here" texts that should be waiting. They're not. A couple in suits walks past with name badges and clipboards, the kind of people who book rooms for things that actually happen. Somewhere in that pause, she feels the wobble, the one you get when the chair you trust suddenly loses a screw. She glances at the hallway sign. Ballroom B, arrow right. She follows it anyway. Hope dresses up doubt, but doubt keeps pace. At the counter, she gives my last name like a password that always worked. Collins, Ballroom B. The woman at the front desk scrolls, scans, blinks once. Ballroom B was released this morning. That line lands with the clean slice of a paper cut, small, sharp, undeniable. I know that tone. I've used it with vendors and banks my whole adult life. It's the voice of policy, not opinion. The clerk is polite, even apologetic, and that almost makes it worse. There's no villain to point at, just a list. She asks for a manager. The manager points to an email. This is how history reroutes. A single message, a timestamp, funds returned to the account that paid them. My account. She stares at the screen like maybe the font will blink and give her a different story. Fonts don't blink. The manager offers a smaller room. Compassion in conference room form. She says no. Pride says no. Then the glass doors open. Timing is a character all by itself. Right then, a courier steps through the doors, the kind with a messenger bag and the calm of someone who never gets invited to the party, only to the truth. "Mrs. Collins?" he asks, holding a manila envelope with my careful handwriting on the front. She signs because adults sign for things even when they already know they won't like what's inside. He thanks her and leaves without looking back. Another professional who doesn't need to witness feelings to do a job right. I chose delivery for a reason. I didn't want a scene, a speech, a chorus of whys. Some endings deserve a steady handoff. The envelope isn't heavy, but it carries weight. Orders, acknowledgments, numbers that don't argue. She breaks the seal with a nail, the way people open bills after holidays. An usher laughs down the hall at a joke that isn't ours. She reaches in and pulls out the reason. On top, the petition. Clean, brief, signed. Beneath it, my note in the same steady block letters I use for lists that have to get done. "You said if I vanished. Happy birthday." No exclamation point, no apology, no rage, just the line she said out loud. Return to sender. People love to say words don't matter. Well, they do when you write them down. She reads it twice, maybe 3 times, waiting for the hidden edit that makes this about something else. There isn't one. This isn't punishment. It's agreement. Yes, disguised as absence. I can imagine the color rising in her face, the way heat does when shock trades places with recognition. In the distance, a saxophone warms up for someone else's celebration. She folds the note back in, like putting the lid on a pot that's already boiled over. The lobby has too much air now. She clutches the envelope like a clutch and moves. Gravity points her to the exit. The walk back across tile feels longer when the floor stops cooperating. Those shoes that knew exactly how to command a room now sound like alarms. Click, click, click. Each step a metronome for a plan that no longer belongs to her. I wasn't there to see it, but I've heard that sound in other lobbies, on other nights. The clip of control giving way. She pushes through the glass doors into evening air that doesn't care about her dress code. The wind lifts the hem just enough to remind her this isn't staged. Claire starts toward her with that half-concern, half-curiosity look people wear when they sense something viral. Our lives get measured in exits more than entrances. This is one of hers. She says she needs a minute, but minutes don't help when the script has been pulled. The car unlocks with a chirp that feels too cheerful. She slides in, shuts the door, and the quiet slams. That's when headlights matter. Headlights sweep across the driveway like a reveal in a game show, except everything shown belongs to her, and nothing is a prize. Suitcases lined up by size. Boxes labeled in clean block print. Garment bags hung so the shoulders don't crease. People call this cold. It isn't. It's respect for objects that once lived in a home. If you've ever moved a loved one out after a hard decision, you know the difference. Care is still care, even when it ends. She gets out slowly, palms on the wheel for balance that isn't coming. The porch light makes everything look honest. Home is a truth-telling bulb. She sets the envelope on the hood, touches a box like it might be hot, and stares at the door we used to share. Her suitcase handle feels foreign in her hand, like a tool you never meant to use. A neighbor's TV flickers blue behind blinds. She reaches for her keys. That's the next pivot. Keys are muscle memory until they aren't. She slips the brass into the lock and expects that soft welcome turn she's known for years. Instead, metal meets metal with a dull refusal. She tries again, slower, as if patience can fix a cylinder. It can't. Not tonight. The locksmith did his work. People will argue ethics from their couches. Locks don't debate. They obey paperwork. This isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity. You can't walk through doors you've chosen to close. She leans her forehead to the wood because wood is kinder than glass. A dog barks 2 houses down and then thinks better of it. Her phone lights up her face with a version of her she recognizes, the one that has always found a way. That version scrolls to my name on instinct. The thumb hesitates like a diver over cold water. She taps. The line rings once, twice. I pick up because some sentences should be said out loud. One time. Her breath comes first, a quiet, steadying inhale like she's lifting a heavy box. I save her the speech. "I hope you enjoy the gift you wanted," I say, the same voice I use to confirm deliveries and deadlines. No edge, no invitation, just the truth she authored. Silence hangs on the line, thick and human. I don't wait for the counter-argument or the story that changes what she said in that living room. At our age, we've both learned you can drown in explanations. I end the call and block the number, not as a punishment, but as a boundary that will hold when midnight gets brave. The screen goes dark and reflects my face back at me. Older maybe, tired, but certain. Across town, the porch light keeps doing its one job. If she calls again, the phone won't ring. The quiet will. She looks at the door one last time and turns to the car. Friends, then. You learn who your people are by the doors they open after 10 p.m. She drives to Claire's place, the tires doing that soft hiss against a street that's seen better nights. The porch light comes on, then the chain clicks, and Claire stands half in, half out, the way folks do when they're balancing sympathy and Saturday. Not tonight, she says gently. Daniel's here. A boundary, not a betrayal. Another house, another ring. No answer. That's not malice. It's how families choose peace at bedtime. An old friend picks up on the third try, stammers through a reason that might be true, might not. She nods into the phone like a person who understands the math. When trouble knocks late, kindness sometimes arrives in the morning. We've all been on both sides of that door. With the last option faded, she turns back toward the highway hotel that smells like lemon cleaner and laundry steam. She pulls in under a buzzing light. Plastic wins. Hotels are built for nights like this. Neutral ground, clean sheets. No questions that matter. She rolls the suitcase to the counter, smooths the dress that used to guarantee a yes, and hands over a card with chipped edges. The clerk types, waits, nods, and then looks up with the same careful face the front desk manager wore. I'm sorry, it's declined. That sentence should come with a chair. She tries another card, then a third. Each beep is a small no, the kind that stacks into a wall. This isn't revenge through finances, it's what happens when lives uncouple and the autopilot turns off. The clerk offers to hold the room while she calls the bank. She thanks him with the kind of politeness people use when they're balancing on pride. Outside, the lot hums with the quiet of 1,000 stories. She pushes the suitcase back through the doors that open for everyone the same way. The air hits her lungs. The night closes in. I wasn't there, but I can picture it. The kind of parking lot that smells like rain and old rubber, light poles buzzing like tired bees. She sits behind the wheel, coat pulled tight, though the night isn't that cold. Freedom has a draft. The windshield fogs in a soft halo where her breath keeps finding the glass and the defroster fights back in weak circles. I've sat in lots like that. After funerals, after layoffs, hands on the wheel because you need to hold something that won't cry. Cars come and go, lives moving on their own timetables. A man in a baseball cap loads groceries. A kid in a hoodie skateboards past like gravity hasn't found him yet. She checks her phone for answers it can't give. Somewhere inside the quiet, a simple truth lands. You can't crowdsource direction. You drive or you don't. She shifts into gear, backs out too carefully, and chooses a road. The night picks its side. Highway sound is honest, steady, indifferent, never in a hurry to care. She merges into it like a note blending into a hum. Those sodium lights turn everything the color of fatigue. I've driven under them after midnight, counting exits instead of sheep, tracing decisions to their beginnings like crime scene thread. She passes a billboard that promises happiness in 3 payment plans and doesn't look up. Good. Advertising doesn't fix grief. Time and truth do. I lower my blinds in Austin and let the city's far-off whisper roll through. People think closure is a ceremony. Most times, it's the sound of tires, the tick of a cooling engine, the slow fade of adrenaline. When the noise gets far enough away from you, you hear your own voice again. I breathe with that rhythm and let my shoulders drop. Somewhere down that highway, she's doing the same math. What's broken, what's replaceable, what only heals when you stop picking at it. The answer's close. In Austin, the window is cracked just enough to invite a breeze that smells faintly like rain and lawnmowers. I sit in a chair that's a little too low and remind myself not every victory needs a toast. When you're young, you celebrate with noise. When you're older, you choose a chair and a breathing pattern. I count 4 beats in, 4 beats out, the way a nurse taught me once during a rough patch. The room stops vibrating. My phone lights up with a news alert that means nothing, then sleeps again. I think about all the times I solved problems no one saw. Water heaters, taxes, holidays held together with tape and optimism. Tonight, I don't solve anything. I simply stop extending respect where it wasn't returned. That's not anger. That's accounting. The breeze lifts the corner of a magazine, then sets it down like even the air learned manners. I let the quiet fill the space I cleared. It fits. I open a notes app and type 3 sentences that would win me 100 comments and a few "You go Kings" from men who've been waiting to swing. Then I delete them. I'm not on trial, and I don't need character witnesses from strangers. At our age, the dopamine spike isn't worth the hangover. I scroll past a photo of someone's steak and someone else's beach and remember how easy it is to lie with good lighting. I lock the phone and place it face down like a lid on a pot. The story doesn't get better with more cooks. I pour water, not whiskey. I've seen what whiskey does when you're convinced you've earned it. The glass sweats in my hand, a reminder that relief can be simple. The only audience I need tonight is the ceiling fan and a conscience that finally found a chair. I set the glass down. It doesn't wobble. That's the point. Stability returned. Michael pads into the kitchen in old socks and that t-shirt he won't throw out. Brothers don't need invitations. They need coffee. He pours, leans on the counter, and gives me the look we've traded since we were kids caught in storms. You good? I don't explain the whole movie. I don't list every scene. I cut the nightmare, I say, and he nods like a mechanic who hears an engine finally idle right. We talk about practical things, work on Monday, whether the faucet in his bathroom is still dripping, if the grill needs new burners, domestic trivia that holds a man together when the big stuff tries to scatter him. He offers the guest room. I choose the couch. I don't want to get too comfortable. He claps my shoulder with a hand that says more than words, and then he flips the porch light off. Small ceremony, big meaning. I rinse our mugs. The house decides to sleep again. My phone buzzes with the tone I set for Derek. Single, low, respectful. Locks changed at 6:40. Movers done, photos attached. I open the images and see clean work. Doors rekeyed, labels straight, boxes under the porch light, like they're waiting for a ride that already knows the address. There's a pride in good labor, even on hard days. I text back, "Thank you," because gratitude is part of dignity, and dignity is the only luxury that never goes out of style. He replies with a thumbs up and the weather for tomorrow, because men like us measure life in forecasts and finish lines. I save the photos to a folder called Closure and feel a small, necessary click in my chest. Not triumph. Alignment. The plan held. The people I trusted did exactly what they said. I set the phone down and realize the room sounds different. Less echo, more room. Space is a gift when you finally own it. I breathe deeper. There's a line I heard once that stuck. Love can't rescue contempt. You can patch a leak, but you can't convince the water to flow uphill. I've tried being patient, generous, funny, quiet, louder. Whatever version of myself might fit the day. That's the trick of contempt. It keeps you auditioning for a role the other person stopped casting. Tonight, I closed the theater. That isn't bitterness. It's boundary. Men my age understand limits the way we understand torque. You overdo it. You strip the bolt. I think about my father sitting at the kitchen table after a bad day, stacking mail into now and later piles with calm hands. He wasn't cold. He was clear. I take that memory and press it like a stamp onto my life. The print holds. Maybe she'll call next week. Maybe she won't. Either way, my dignity isn't up for negotiation. That's how things break less in the long run. That's how I sleep. People will call this revenge because revenge is a headline and boundaries are homework. But I didn't burn her dress or drain an account. I honored her request with precision. She wanted space. I gave her the real kind, the kind with locks and paperwork. If absence is a gift, I wrapped it carefully and left the receipt she could keep. My note, my signature, my silence. There's a difference between hurting someone and refusing to be hurt in the same way again. I chose the second. I think about empty chairs, church basements, AA meetings I drove friends to, Little League bleachers on windy Saturdays. An empty seat isn't a threat. It's a shape that tells the truth about who showed up. Tonight, I made an empty seat at our table. It looks harsh. It's honest. I turn off one more lamp and let the house darken to the shade where sleep finds careful men. It finds me. That's the outcome. I used to think love was a house you endlessly renovate. Knock out a wall, add a window, sand the floor again. Lately, I've learned love is the zoning too. Setbacks, easements, lines you don't cross if you want the structure to stand. I built a wall this week, not to trap her, but to keep my foundation from cracking. And I opened a door, for me, to step into a life where respect isn't a guest that leaves early. You hit a certain age and you stop begging for entry. You build your own doorway and walk through it without announcements. I picture the first morning light finding the new locks, the way metal looks steady when it's freshly cut. That's what I want for my spine, for my voice, for the next version of my days. Walls keep the weather out. Doors give you direction. Tonight, both did their job. I exhale. The house settles around me like it finally agrees. I place my phone face down and slide the alarm toggle off. The silence that follows is louder than any ringtone I've owned. For years, I woke early to stay ahead. Emails before sunrise, grocery runs before traffic, compromise before conflict. Tonight, I choose rest over readiness. I stretch out on Michael's couch, the one that argues with your back but tells the truth to your brain. You're safe. The room holds a faint coffee smell and the easy mess of a home lived in by people who like each other. My eyes adjust to the streetlight that sneaks through the blinds. I think of nothing strategic, no lists, no counterpoints, no reruns of sentences I can't unsay. I let the day end without checking the locks twice. Derek already did that. My last thought before sleep is small and sturdy. I kept my word to myself. Morning will come whether I earn it or not. Tonight, I take it as given. I don't know what she thought in that car, only that regret shows up late and asks to stay. The windshield fogs where your breath keeps landing, and you wipe the same circle over and over like you can polish the past. I've been there. Parking lots outside hospitals, outside HR offices, holding a steering wheel because it doesn't judge. Maybe she scrolled our old photos and wondered when we turned into me. Maybe she rehearsed a message she couldn't send. Either way, the night has a way of stripping costumes. Dresses turn into fabric. Speeches turn into breathing. I picture her counting money, counting favors, counting doors. None add up. That's what truth does. It balances the books. I don't gloat. I close my eyes and let the image fade, the way you let a flare burn out so you can see the road again. Some lessons come wrapped in silence. This one does. The silence stays. That's the lesson. My phone stays quiet in a way that feels intentional. No apology, no paragraph that starts with hey and ends with can we talk? Maybe it'll come tomorrow. Maybe next week. I'm not holding a chair for it. At our age, waiting becomes its own bad habit. You start saving a seat for someone who already left the building. I check my inbox because muscle memory still thinks attention equals affection. Nothing. The empty screen looks like a clean counter after dinner. Proof something hard got done. I don't draft the reply I'd want to send either. I've learned that answering ghosts keeps them alive. A calendar alert pops up for an old anniversary dinner we missed once and never rescheduled. I delete it without ceremony. Space opens where a ritual used to be. It doesn't feel like losing. It feels like finally turning off a porch light no one was walking toward. The phone sleeps. I let it. We're done rehearsing. I sit with the laptop and do what grown men do when the heart wants order. Maintenance. I move a shared calendar called Us into archive, drag a playlist named Road Trips into a folder I label Then, and unpin an album that once felt like proof. I'm not erasing, I'm shelving. There's a difference your back understands when you finally box the heavy things. I rename a contact from Savannah to Savannah Collins and feel the keystrokes settle the room. If you've ever cleaned out a closet after a move, you know the relief isn't joy, it's air. I delete 2 drafts I wrote on bad nights and never sent. I keep one good photo because truth deserves a frame, even when the story ended. The machine asks, "Are you sure?" I click yes and mean it. Clutter leaves. Clarity stays. The fan whirs on my left like a tired witness. I close the lid. The past can rest now. My attorney's email lands with the steadiness of a paycheck. Filed. The attached PDF looks like a blueprint. Lines, sections, signatures where they should be. E-signing doesn't feel romantic, but then again, neither did the last 2 years. I read every page like a foreman checking a beam, running my finger down the margin for anything crooked. It's clean. He writes, "You handled this well." I reply, "Thank you," because there's dignity in paperwork done right. I think about courtrooms and how much noise gets made inside them. I prefer this room. Quiet, coffee gone cold, A lamp that doesn't flicker. I click the final box and watch the confirmation banner slide across the screen like a small sunrise. Done isn't loud. It's a check mark. I forward a copy to a folder called Keep and back it up to a drive labeled Life. Redundant? Maybe. Or maybe it's the habit that keeps a man standing. Either way, the foundation holds. I exhale. Pain invites victory laps. I pass. I don't feel taller because she's hurting. I feel upright because I stopped shrinking. That's a different posture. I stand at Michael's kitchen window and watch a neighbor water plants he probably overpaid for, and I'm grateful for the ordinary. The curtain lifts in the AC draft and falls again, and I think about how many times I tried to fix a weather system by being nicer. You can't out-nice contempt. You can outlast it by leaving. I pour coffee instead of bourbon because I want tomorrow to like me. If you're over 40, you know the difference. I text Michael a grocery list, eggs, bread, trash bags, and that list feels more important than any comeback line I'll never send. The win isn't her pain. The win is the absence of mine. I take a slow sip and let the small, good heat remind me I'm here. That's enough. That's the finish line I wanted. Home used to mean our address. Now it means any room where respect doesn't need a password. At this age, you learn to spot it. The way voices soften, the way people put your plate down like it isn't a chore. Michael's couch squeaks when I stand up, and the sound feels more loyal than applause ever did. I wash my cup without being asked and dry it with a towel clean enough to pass inspection. The simple things hold. I think about key rings, how many doors we carry around that don't belong to us anymore. I'll return what needs returning. I'll keep a few because scars don't unlock anything. They just remind you where not to knock. I open the front door to a morning that smells like cut grass and early promises. The hinges don't complain. Neither do I. Home is where you can sit with your shoes off and your guard down. I step outside. The day makes room. There's a lesson I'd put on a refrigerator magnet if I made those. Be careful what you wish for when someone responsible is listening. She wished I'd vanish. I did the adult version. Paperwork, keys, a plan you could audit. People think wishes are magic. In my house, wishes are work orders. The thing about a sharp wish is it cuts the person who catches it too. I didn't throw knives. I handed back her sentence with a signature and a stamp. If you've ever told a teenager, words matter, you know how boring that sounds compared to fireworks. Tonight, the boring thing saved me. The dress will go back on a hanger. The boxes will end up somewhere else. The note will curl at the edges and find a drawer. What stays is the part you can't photograph. I heard, I believed, I acted. That's the whole story. The magnet version is shorter. Wish granted, lesson learned. I turn off the light. I take my ring out of my pocket and set it in a small box. No ceremony, no speech. I don't throw it. I don't wear it. I place it the way you place a tool you've finished using, with respect, facing forward, ready to be found if a future needs it for context. The lid closes with a soft click that sounds louder than it should. That's how closures behave. Quiet, final, echoing more in your chest than in the room. I slide the box onto a shelf beside a stack of owner's manuals I'll probably never read again, but refuse to toss. Not everything needs to be useful to be allowed to stay. I turn off the lamp, and the dark folds around me like a jacket that finally fits. Somewhere, a train pulls through Austin and reminds me, motion is ordinary. I stand there until the quiet finishes the sentence I started days ago. It's over. Then I sit down. I kept my promise the way a grown man should, quietly. She wished I'd vanish before her birthday, and I did it properly. Keys returned, locks changed, papers signed, no parade, no posts. In the end, silence spoke louder than speech I could have made. It said, my dignity isn't for debate. It said, love without respect is a house without studs. It said, I will not audition for someone who left the room. If you've ever carried a family on your back, you know the clean feeling of setting the weight down without dropping it. That's the payoff. Not revenge, but relief. Not pain, but peace with receipts. So tell me, if you were me, would you confront, forgive, or disappear with grace? Drop your take below. Someone your age may need to read it tonight. I'm stepping into a morning in Austin, coffee in hand, phone down. Fade music. Let the sun do the talking. Story's over. I'm here now.